Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 678, Rich and I here, and we've got lots to talk about. We're talking about the Surface Duo, we're talking about the new Galaxy Z or Z Fold. We'll be talking about the Note 20 Ultra that I've been playing with and very much enjoying. We've got new Windows 10. We're talking about Samsung Dex, all sorts of stuff. So let's get straight to Richard. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Okay, good. Enjoyed the bank holiday weekend. Although then you've got to cram everything into 4 days, so it works. You pay for
Exactly,
it, enjoy it on the
yes.
Monday, pay for it for the rest of the week.
Yes, I'm back from a very, very long, extended vacation. So, first day back, it's always fun.
Yeah, but you're still remote working as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so for the foreseeable future. I think it's pretty much indefinite now. It's one of those things where I think it's just easier to have people at home doing the things that we do. As you know, there's no real need for office. Although I have to say, I never thought I'd say it, but I'm really starting to miss conferences now and meeting people.
Yeah, there was an overload, wasn't it? Initially, it's like, yes, I don't have to meet people anymore. But actually, I can't miss meeting people now. I've missed the I've missed some of the little events that you do, even the press events. That sometimes you think, I'm not sure I can bother going to them, but actually, it's quite nice to catch up and meet people.
Yeah, definitely. Still, but plenty of things have happened.
Yes, that's it. And no Gary tonight because he's in the air tonight. He's doing his Phil Collins. He
is indeed, yes. Good luck to him. I wish him the best.
Yeah, because he's going across to IFA in Berlin. So, it's one of the few sort of in-person events that's going ahead with a limited number of people anyway.
Yes, I'll be very interested to hear back from him next week on how it went and what it was actually like, because it's, as you say, it's one of the first ones to be back. So I'll be very interested to see how it's actually handled and how it's managed and how it's different, really. Yeah,
it's certainly going to be different. There's a few things opening up now, aren't there? But anyway, we're remote tonight using Teams again. And the dialing quality, I don't know if you listened back to last week's show, but the actual audio quality was quite good for using a dialing.
Yeah, you know what? And tonight I wish I was doing that because my bandwidth has inexplicably dropped down to I'd say pre-2000 levels. It's dropped down to an ADSL.
Jason Coombs level.
Exactly. Somewhere Jason's laughing at me. I can sense it. In fact, I've not checked to see if he's in the street with a pair of scissors because it has slowed right down from how it was this morning. So Jason, he's got a model of me with pins sticking out of it.
Yeah, somewhere he has. Well, we've still got plenty of things we want to talk about tonight. I can talk about a bit more experience with the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. And some Windows 10 insider stuff, and I've been playing with Dex as well. We've got a new Samsung foldable Z Fold2, I think it's called, and
it will always be the Z Fold to me.
Yeah, exactly. I still can't get used to doing that, and I don't like when British people follow the Americanisms and saying like beta instead of beta and duo instead of duo, and I know the Americans say that, but we say it how you're meant to say it. So we'll be calling it Surface Duo, not a Surface Duo.
Oh yes, but Ian, you come from the north, so I believe you tend to substitute large chunks of words with an apostrophe. Do you not?
Well, yes. I won't take offence at your southernisms.
Exactly.
Although my grandmother was from Bolton and she spoke with a proper Bolton accent, and there was lots of apostrophes in that, to this and to that.
I'm going nowhere near that, going nowhere near it.
So lots of things to talk about. And we'll be talking about the Surface Duo this evening.
Yes, the hands-on, and I would say hands-on in inverted commas reviews have begun to appear, haven't they? People popping into Best Buy and having a play with one, because I think those who've been sent the review models are still under embargo for another week or so, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's quite interesting that. So I don't know that as I rarely get stuff on embargo for review. You probably tend to a little bit more than I do. In some respects, I quite like the idea of an embargo because there's always a race or a rush to get these things out, aren't there? So you get sent a device, and if you get sent it and there's no particular embargo, you want to be one of the first. It's your natural. It's especially a lot of people doing unboxing videos and stuff like that, and I've done the same thing. When you get hold of it, you want to get it up there, so to get the views and. Making the embargo for a couple of weeks does mean that the devices will get hopefully a proper looking at, and then everybody will publish their reviews at the same time when the embargo is lifted. Yeah,
that's correct. Which I think is the right approach by Microsoft there, and I think a number of other companies do the same thing, where they'll give you the device for a few weeks up ahead, and obviously you're then under embargo. Because I don't really trust the hands-on, because I've been in these shows where you've seen a device unveiled, and you just see the charge to PowerPoints and laptops out to be the first one to try and post a hands-on review of it. You think you've had your hand on it for maybe 15 seconds. I'm not sure you can really judge a device. And while I'm not the greatest fan of the Duo, I think it does deserve to be looked at properly, which I think is what a large number of these people who've been given these embargo devices will do, because they've had a few weeks to actually see, has it changed their workflow, or is it just really a very expensive Kindle, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards at the moment. But obviously I hasten to add, I don't have one. I'm not under any NDA, so but yes, they have bizarrely begun to appear in Best Buy stores in the US, haven't they? So people have been wandering in there and having a play and taking photos of themselves, taking photos saying the camera's not as unpleasant as I thought it might be. And yeah, it's a bit weird, really, that. I'm surprised that those are in the Best Buy store or US stores ahead of the review embargo lifting.
Yeah, I suppose they are. Yeah, it is a bit strange. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the reviews. Part of me not wants to read them because I still, even though I've got a different phone now and I kind of glad in a way, but even though it's still part of me thinks I'm not reading that, I can't have one, so therefore I'm not reading it. They don't exist. The Duo doesn't exist. I haven't got one, therefore it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And anyway, you want the Duo 2. The Duo 2 as well have fixed all the things that were wrong with the Duo 1, and Duo 2 will be a much nicer phone, I think. So, yeah. I mean, at the moment, it seems to be, isn't it really thin? It seems to be the main thing people are saying about it. When it's folded out, obviously when it's folded up as a phone, it's quite a bit thicker, but when it's folded out, the sides do seem to be quite skinny compared to the Samsung device, for example. But yeah, it's obviously a lot less powerful as well. So we shall see. I look forward to seeing the reviews.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the thing will hinge on.
Boom.
Yes, I got that.
Well done, Ian. Well done.
We'll hinge on the applications one, as always do. I mean, we've seen brilliant hardware being let down by poor software. And lack of applications and story of Windows Phone, and we've seen mediocre hardware do well with decent software. So it will depend on how well the whole package comes together with the software and hardware, and whether they really can define a new sort of way of working. And that's really what probably upsets me about not being able to get one, is the fact I would have liked to have tried, working with that new paradigm and trying all these different things, but. Like I said, I'm probably it is much better to wait for the version 2, and I'm probably much better off with the Note that I've got. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to reading those reviews.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess there's no UK media getting these at all, is there? Because no point, because they're not available.
I couldn't comment. I don't know for sure. So it would seem to be a little bit. Yeah, it would seem to be a little bit pointless giving UK people the device, because obviously it's not available for a while yet. But who knows? We'll find out.
Who knows? Yeah. So I can update on how I'm getting on with the Galaxy Note. I've spent some time with it now. Last couple of weeks, using it full time, and still, as you'd expect at this stage, and with a phone like that, I'm still really enjoying it. I've got the nice case on there, the Clearview case as well, which I've got sent to review, which is really nice. And it's an impressive phone, as you'd expect for a premium, it's a premium device. Whether the price outweighs the benefit that you could actually get from that. I'm not quite sure whether, you know, I went a bit too far. It would be better with one of the, maybe the lower spec one than just the Note 20 one. But then the other part of me thinks, well, you know, I think it was like £100 more or something like that, and I've now got at least I've got 5G and everything else. It's going to last me a while.
Exactly. I mean, you got to kind of amortize that over the course of 3 years, because you would expect this phone to last for minimum to at least really three years. So spread it out. I think it's another £30 a year, so it's probably okay.
And I did trade in my Pixel as well, and so I got a good.
That's poor Pixel.
Yeah. But so far, I really like it. I know this is an old guy thing that reminds me of my dad of, you know, when I was a teenager. He's go, God, but actually you can read the screen really well. It's a big screen on there, and I don't need glasses to read it. Which
yes, I mean, I've started wearing glasses.
I'm wearing I always, when I'm working, I tend to wear them. When at the weekend, I tend, you know, unless I'm writing a blog post or something. If I'm just, you know, around the house then I tend not to bother wearing them. But I do feel a bit of eye strain any length of time. And even with this, I find that I don't really need to because it's 6.9 inch screen. I don't need to wear reading glasses at all with it. So actually, it does ease the strain on your eyes a little bit. I know that's not the best, most exciting technical review of it, but it actually does make a difference. And especially when you compare it to the Pixel I had was the XL version, so it wasn't a small phone. But then my wife asked me to. She's got an iPhone 6, and I think she said, "Oh, can you just reply to that message?" You know, my hands are full of stuff. So I was just on her phone, and I was like, "What is this tiny, miniature little phone that you're giving me to use?" It's really surprising how small that screen feels on the iPhone, and of course the big bezels and everything. So I am liking the Galaxy. The camera is really nice. I've playing around with some of the shots. There's some nice modes on it. There's the super slow-mo is great for taking pictures of bees and butterflies and that kind of thing. The actual, just the normal camera is great. You can really zoom in on things and get the detail. Which is nice.
I wonder if this is one of the reasons why Microsoft hasn't bothered so much for the camera on the Duo, even though everyone's being very brave about it. Those who've had their hands on the thing, because I guess in a corporate enterprise sense, you probably don't need the camera to do an awful lot. Whereas a consumer, which I don't think the Duo is really aimed at, does need a decent camera now. I mean, you know, and Samsung do make some superb cameras, or rather, they use some superb cameras in their phones. So I wonder, as a consumer, you'll benefit more from that than would say your average corporate Duo user.
Yeah, I think so. The video mode, the pro video mode, looks fantastic. I think my next plan is to get some kind of tripod mount for it, because I think it's probably, I'll get better quality video out of that than I will out of my DLSR for for doing the videos, product review type videos. So I did find that the battery gets eaten up if you use the screen a lot, because it's got that 120 hertz screen on there. So if you're playing with the phone a lot with the screen on, like taking pictures and looking at pictures and editing pictures, then it starts to eat through the battery. But then you've got the fast charging and everything else.
Yeah, and of course, if you're on a big screen, there's always the Fold 2, isn't there? Which I think appeared today or yesterday, or
yes,
it's
today,
turned up. Yes.
Yeah. I seen there was a tweet that somebody tweeted with the link to the live stream, so I put it on actually this afternoon while I was at work, and it wasn't as bad as some of the other Samsung live stream events. I think this was pre-recorded live stream, so it was a bit more. I've seen some of those cringeworthy press events. They're probably not as bad now because they don't have people there, but the old Samsung press event at launches where they had a crowd and there was a guy on stage, and there was always a bit of toe curling in those moments in those. But I didn't see that. It looks so the Samsung Z Fold, as they kept referring to it, but it's a Z Fold for me.
A Z bed.
Yeah. It looks a nice evolution, but it's like £2,000, isn't it? Around that.
Yeah, I think it's getting to like the £1,800 mark is the price I've heard being bandied around. Although I think you get either 256 or 512 gigs of storage, I believe, which isn't expandable. So it's almost like I said, okay, the US cost this. Let's just add some more pounds onto it, and try and lure lure iPhone fanboys away from their devices by saying it's even shinier, even more expensive. So yeah, it's an interesting approach, but it is I have to say it is a wholly powerful device that's got a heck of a CPU, lots of RAM, and yeah, it does do the folding thing. Although it is, I believe it's thicker than the Duo, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But of course, the screen folds out, and there's no bezels around it, so it's one big screen. So it's a different approach. Although I understand the hinge is a lot better this time around, because the first fold hinge misbehaved itself somewhat. Whereas this one, I believe they have, they're into generation 2 now, and they've rectified it. But it does look quite thick, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because I think that was they have done change the hinge, and it's a slightly different approach to Microsoft. And Microsoft is a dual screen device. This is a single screen when it folds out, but it's got a screen on the front as well, isn't it? So it's 3
I know,
effectively, isn't it?
So many screens. It's got a gazillion cameras. Yes, it can pump out 4K video if you really wanted to. It's astonishing. Although, I mean, I don't know. I was looking at it again. Maybe perhaps I'm getting gadget fatigue or something. But I was looking at it, I thought, well, yeah, it's all well and good, but I could just get an ordinary lightweight phone and an iPad and have a lot more change.
It's
and probably a happier experience when things are folded out. So I'm not at the moment. I'm still undecided. If I'm honest, though, I'm as you know not a massive fan of the Duo. I think I almost prefer the Duo's approach of having two distinct screens as opposed to this approach here. But I guess I need to get my hands on them and really play with them. But yeah, it's a heck of a lot of money, isn't it? but
it is. Yeah,
it's got a lot of it's got all the boxes ticked that I winced about with the Duo. So I guess there you go.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Samsung do seem to throw everything, like the camera. It's got the 100 times zoom, and it's got the best camera, the best of both between the Ultra Note 20 and the S20, isn't it? It's a combined camera. It's got the processor on there. Samsung do throw everything at it, and there's a lot of processing in the actual camera app as well. I've noticed it's got so many different modes on it. There's one called single take, where you take a picture and it takes a video and like 10 other pictures at the same time, and you choose the best frame. And I think that came out on earlier versions, but it's the first time I'd actually played with it. But they just throw so many features into it that I think, whereas like the approach of the Surface, like the first gen device is quite a conservative camera, I would imagine. I don't think anybody's allowed to even publish the view of the camera app, but I don't expect it'll be with as many features as the Samsung device throws in. And I think the big difference with these foldables is going to be interesting to see which one captures the market. Is it the dual screen approach of the Surface, or is it the single fold out screen? I noticed in the video feed that I did watch, they did quite a lot with showing the screen in the split mode.
Running two apps, yeah.
Yeah, so which is kind of learning, or perhaps taking a cue from what Microsoft have done with the Duo. So you're not just using it as one giant screen all the time. I noticed the guy was like using it for is it Google Duo? It's called Duo, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Or Duo, as they would say. For the it's like a messaging app, isn't it? It's like
sure, yeah.
But and he had it folded over there with part the controls on the bottom screen and the video display on the top part of the screen, just like on the Surface Duo does when you're using Teams with the split screen mode. So maybe there's more demand for the split screen type options than there are for than one large tablet type device. I don't know. Well, the market will see, I guess, once these devices are out for a bit.
Exactly, yes. I mean, thus far, I don't think the foldables have really set the world alight. But again, they are, by virtue of how much they cost, very high end, so very, very niche at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see the approach. And I think, as you said a while ago, they do need this one killer app, one thing that you have to have two screens to be able to be 100% more productive or something. It's kind of and at the moment I've not seen anything that's made me think, oh, that looks really good, I really need that. I've seen Surface Duo demos, they've flung apps from one side to the other and dragged and dropped and things. And I've seen the Samsung demonstration. I thought, wait, it's okay, but I just don't think, I can't see a real world scenario where I'd actually want to do that on a phone. But I could be wrong. And of course, I do like the tech. I like the foldable tech. It's very exciting, but I just can't justify it at the moment, apart from the coolness factor. Yeah,
that's it exactly. Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. I mean, there's some nice things, like there was like a you could have like a preset, but I don't know if you've seen on the Samsung device, you can kind of swipe in from the right, and you have like a shortcut box list of app shortcuts, and one of them you could preset and bring 3 applications in and have it as like a preset window. So maybe you have Teams at the bottom, and you have Edge on the top left, and Google Meet on the right or something. You can have any, and you can preset that so that with one button you bring that combination of apps up, which I haven't seen that on anything like that on the Surface Duo, but maybe that will be something. But I think on a phone, the large screen just helps. I've noticed using this bigger screen, it helps taking pictures, it helps reading and browsing. But it doesn't make a huge amount of difference productivity wise, because I'm not writing a blog post or an email or composing a long email. I'm still on my phone, because you tend to pick the best device you've got with you for that application at the time, don't you? So if I'm at a desk, I'm using a Surface laptop or a work device. If I'm maybe sat on the sofa and I'll use my Surface Go. If I'm out and about and I've only got the phone with me, I still wouldn't think, oh, write a blog post. You just wouldn't do it, would you? Maybe with the Duo you might think about it, but I don't know. I can't see you writing a whole article on a device less than 8 inches. I mean, even the small tablets that I've tinkered with, the 7-inch Lynx tablets, I never did any productivity on. They were always just consumption.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's I mean, I guess because I've always got a laptop or a tablet looking around somewhere, I'd pull those out to actually write on, and I'd probably only use a phone really for consumption. But I did try and use a what was it called? The Gemini. I think the updated sound
slide out keyboard one. Yeah,
and I used that for a while. But even then, I just found it. I kept moving back to a laptop or a tablet eventually, because it's a bit too small. So I don't know. It's where the Neo would, I think, have been interesting, but the Neo, of course, is disappeared for the time being. When do you reckon the cancellation is going to come through?
Well, I don't know. Neo, I mean, it's next year now, isn't it? So this maybe they could. I imagine that would still sell. It would sell as much. It depends whether they want to put the resources elsewhere, I suppose. That's the only reason to cancel, isn't it? It would be a device. They made them, they would sell them. But do they put the resources elsewhere and update the Surface range? And I don't know, and spend them, on the Surface Pro and Pro X or whatever.
And I think there's a lot of software to get working as well. It's where we had to get Gary's take, but I suspect there's quite a lot of software development outstanding still to make Windows 10X work properly.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Windows 10X, and I mean, I know they talked about that they're now focusing on single screen experiences for Windows 10X, but unless they're doing loads of super secret squirrel work under the covers, they've gone really quiet on Windows 10X. They said they're focused on single screens, but they haven't said how we're gonna consume these programs.
Exactly, yes, and of course the latest builds of Windows 10 haven't been the most inspiring of builds, without putting too fine a points on it.
Absolutely not. No, so I'm hoping that there's loads of work going on behind the scenes on Windows 10X, and then at some point, next Thursday, when there's a build comes out, they say, here's a build of Windows 10X you can try, and if you've got a supported device, or here's an emulator, here's an updated emulator image of Windows 10X. But they've gone really quiet on that, which is fair enough. They want to get things done quietly, but they did say that they were bringing this focus to the single screen devices. It'd be nice to see what that actually equates to, or whether what they really mean is we're sticking with Windows 10 on Intel, and we're going to bring some of the bits over which is what they've done with the notifications. So maybe we'll just see some of those UI elements of 10X come over to Windows 10, and Windows X will quietly go away. Windows 10X will quietly go away, or we could be surprised and they could have it. I mean, there was the rumors last month about them this being positioned as a Chromebook type killer and on low cost devices, but we've no evidence of that of devices or any announcements or anything else.
Yes, because I mean the last big growth market for Windows devices really was the netbooks all those years ago, and since then they've really just retrenched and gone back to whenever there's been a cheap Windows device, there's always been a terrible laptop. So it's a tricky one. I mean I'm a little worried now about Windows 10X because it was very much the future. It was the containerized future that we wanted because and we'd seen Sandbox, we'd seen various components come together. We think, okay, that's going to run things in containers. It'll be more secure. You'll have this wonderful updating ability. And as you say, it has gone very quiet, very very quiet. Never mind.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I'd like to see some Windows 10. I'd like to do some testing. I like Windows Insiders to get Windows 10X to start putting it through its paces and do some testing on it.
Well, hey Ian, don't worry because the latest dev channel build, aka the fast-string build, is out 2201, which contains a fix for Microsoft Store games protected by easy anti-cheat software.
yeah. And that one's been on the list since 20H1? Not prior, was it? Last year?
It's also fixed an issue where the min-max close button was stuck in their conditions after restarting a UWP app because loads of devs use UWP. So yeah, it's not much in it really. The latest dev channel build.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing we've seen any changes for really with the WSL, which is backported, and the start menu changes and notifications, which they're also backported.
Exactly, and of course, I mean, the start menu is a separate component now, isn't it? It's not in the core OS anymore, and WSL was obviously pulled out of the core as well, the core base image. So I think it's easier to. I mean, that seems to be the way forward for Windows. You just update things which aren't part of that base image, which makes sense. But yes, I was disappointed. I mean, I was saddened in this build to see that the new disk management system, which they introduced in the last preview build, is crashing a bit, but it is preview. Although you saw some app sizing stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And they don't put this in. This is even better now for testers because not only do you may be A/B testing, but there's also you may be testing things out without realize you're testing. Because I spotted this and I thought, oh, this is just me. I've missed something. And I tweeted out saying, "Is this new?" And loads of people replied back to me saying, "Yep, I've not seen that before." And this is a setting that apparently iOS has had, and I think Android has actually. But this is where it will effectively archive apps, and this is in the new build, and it's in the app setting where you see all the apps in the settings bit. But this is a setting to automatically archive. That sounds quite dangerous. Automatically archive apps that will you don't use frequently, and the text says your files and other data will be saved. The next time you use an archived app, it'll be connected to the internet it'll connect to the internet to restore the full version. Brackets if it's still available.
That sounds utterly terrifying.
But
I mean,
it has its good and bad points. I mean, for a start, if you've got a Surface Go, running a limited amount of space and you don't use a certain app for ages, then great, and then you use it, and it'll just it's already archived it. It downloads the fresh exes, but you've kept your settings. That's okay. And then when I posted about this, loads of people went and highlighted that bit where it says if it's still available.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I noticed that too. I almost passed my Diet Coke through my nose at that point. I mean, presumably these are also apps that come from the Microsoft Store. I guess they can't be stuff you download yourself.
Yeah. These are apps that you get through the store. So if you use, you get an app through the store, maybe it's Candy Crush, whatever, and you never use it. But you haven't uninstalled it, so it archives it, and then when you do come to use it, it just drags the executables down again from the store, and you freed up a lot of space. So it's a good way of not having to manually enable and uninstall apps when you maybe got a device. And a few people actually replied to me and said, this is pointless, we don't worry about hard disk space anymore, storage is cheap. But that's not true in my experience. Every device I have, I always feel no matter how much space I have, I always seem to fill it. So
exactly. And if you've got a laptop, you are stuck with normally stuck with whatever it came with. So yeah, and it always fills up. I've just found that the setting, this is really worrying, it's on by default.
It is on by default. Yeah, this is what I flagged up, and I did ask the Insider.
That's going off now. There we go.
I asked the Insider program if this was a new setting, but they haven't replied to me yet. But yeah, to be on by default, I thought was quite surprised. I would definitely understand it. I definitely use the feature if it was off by default, but you almost want something a bit like OneDrive where you can say always online or save the space or something like that, where it gives you that choice, because it might be an app that you use infrequently, but think actually when I do need this, I want it, so I'm going to mark this one as sort of always available, because
if it's available. Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean that's saying that the developer has perhaps made it unavailable, but it also you can envisage a scenario where you've got the I don't know, some tool that you use in emergencies to fix your website or something, and or it fix your server or something, and then your internet's down, and you think, oh, I'll use my emergency app to get me out of this pickle, and then it says this is no longer available because you're not on the internet or the data's withdrawn, and it's like, oh. So
yeah,
I think maybe they've not put it in the release notes because it's not even hooked up yet. It could be just the UI's there, because I couldn't see any evidence of it doing this, but I think that should be off by default and give you the option. Have it there in the
yes,
space.
I mean, if only there was a tip screen that could appear and say, "Hey, this new feature's here. Maybe you might want to turn it on."
Yeah.
If only there was a tips app, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
So, while I wholeheartedly think it's great to give us those options, and like I've seen some people say iOS has had this for ages, but I haven't tried it for myself. I think they should probably consider having that as off by default, and just have it on as if you go through like a that storage screen saying, "Would you like to turn this on?" Through the tip app.
This is preview code, so I'm sure they're enjoying the feedback.
Yeah, exactly, and it may be that they're not even. This was in error in this build, and we'll get the next week's build, and that little box will be gone, and no one will ever mention it again.
Yeah, I do wish. I think this has been an in for a while, but I've noticed it more in this latest build. I also wish it would stop nagging me to restore recommended web browsing settings as well. It keeps wanting me to switch to Edge as my default browser, which I did try for a while, and I've had to switch back to Chrome for various reasons. But also, it really wants me to use Bing as a search engine. Really wants me to do that. It just says, maybe you should use your even in the control panel, it's saying restore the recommended options. Well, I'm pretty sure that's not your place to tell me to use Bing instead of the search engine of my choice. So there's a few worrying trends here.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed with this build, and this could be, I think this was the point, I did report this to the feedback at two machines. So I have a Surface Go and a virtual machine on the laptop. The virtual machine laptop installed, normal time, no issues at all. The Surface Go just sat on 0%, then it sat on 6% for ages, and I thought, the internet's not working properly. I did speed checks and everything else. It sat there and sat there and sat there, and then when I came to it in the morning, it had run out of disk space. It said, you need to, it gives you that option of using an external storage, but there's not a huge amount on the Surface Go, and it's the 128 version. So I look the software distribution folder where the downloads go into. In the Windows directory, it creates a folder with a GUID, and that's where it downloads the updates. It was 39 gig, that folder. So I wonder whether there was a little bug somewhere in the in how these images were being offered. So rather than it just pulling down the Delta files, it needs to rebuild your image or your version. I think because I noticed loads of languages and different processor versions in all these files. So I've got a feeling it actually downloaded 39 gigs worth of data. I cleared some space, so it installed in the end anyway. But I checked that folder just before it did the final sort of before the reboots phase, and it was 39 gig. And I suspect I've never checked it, but I don't think it's normally that big. And I think that's maybe why it's stuck on those percentages, because instead of dragging down 4 gig, it dragged down 39 gig. And that's the reason why that installation was slow. There's a lot of feedback reports of those slow phases, so I suspect that's what it was. So it's some kind of bug in the distribution system. Right. But I didn't check the file size on my other device because it just all works. So I'm not sure. It could sometimes with Windows it reports disk size, doesn't it, and folders that are a different size to actually on disk because of these virtual files and things like that. So. But I suspect that's why it was so slow, that it dragged down all this data. But anyway, it's working now. But because you're supposed to have reserves, I've got reserve storage switched on, so it shouldn't really get to a situation where you can't install the next upgrade, because it should always have enough space reserved to do that. That was the whole point of the reserve storage. Yeah, but anyway, that's part of it. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's just that's just part of testing, which is all part of the fun of testing. The insider builds. The did update the 20H2 one, didn't they, with a point release? I've seen some people have ended up with this in release preview, and I don't think that was deliberate. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Exactly. I mean, it's supposed to be coming to release preview, but I don't think it's supposed to. I mean, we talked about this last week as well. It's not quite there yet. Did you get the wonderful blast of the past with that 20H2 update? I forget what the build number is. It's it's the latest 19042 build. I can't remember. Is it 478? I can't quite remember which one it is.
They're on 487 now.
That's it, 487. I switched my digits around, but I did notice in the fix list some fixes around Visual Basic 6. Oh, wonderful!
I love Visual Basic 6.
Making the list view in the Common Control .ocx pack work properly, and I had a nostalgic flashback, Ian. I read it.
I think that was the last proper version of Visual Basic, wasn't it? That was the one before they went to .NET.
Exactly. Yeah. The last real standalone thing, but before I think Visual Basic began to gradually be sacrificed on the altar of C#.
Yeah. That's the last proper development system. Don't let Gary tell you there's other better systems. That's the last proper one.
Gary thinks Xamarin's good, so so what does he know?
Oh, he's not here to defend himself.
Exactly. I can say anything now.
Yeah. Visual Basic 6.
He's probably on his playing going, oh, turbulence, what was that?
Yeah. Or Visual J++.
Yes. Actually, that's not fair. Xamarin is a great platform. I take that back.
Yeah. And I'd just like to point out, I've got my MCSD in Visual InterDev.
Oh, I got mine in Visual Basic.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I did Visual Basic as well, but Visual InterDev was, you had when I did them, you had your core languages, and then what was like one optional one to get your MCSD. So I did Visual InterDev.
My MCSE, that's all NT4 in those days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, good. The last proper operating system as well. I think really, as our weekly tech, we're all guys now wanting Visual Basic 6 on NT4. I'd be happy with that. Just give me that now. If we all go back to that and all agree to stick with that, okay, I'll live with that.
I regularly play about once a week. I play some online games with some colleagues, and we're currently playing Sea of Thieves, which insists on updating itself every couple of weeks with fixes and things. And I know it's good, and there's new content, and they're fixing bugs and stuff. But when I open up the game and I have to wait an hour for it to finish downloading and updating, I can't help shouting out the word "modern games are rubbish." In the old days, I'd blow the cartridge, I'd pop it in the console, up and running within seconds. Whereas now it's I quite fancy playing this game. Oh, 5 gig download. Oh, goodness me. So
yeah.
So yes, I am become old.
Yeah, I think I was never a console gamer, but my premium gaming experience would be TIE Fighter or X-Wing on a 486, Sound Blaster 16, or Windows or DOS 6.22 with my custom auto exec back. So I'm a happy place there. That's where gameplay went over graphics. Actually, there's a good series on Netflix. I think I can't remember what it's called now. Just the name escapes me.
Yes, is it High Score or something like that?
High Score.
Yes, yeah. Yes. I've been watching that. We should talk about that next week actually, and boy, everyone says about it. Yes, it's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit US centric, or US stroke Japanese centric for me so far. They didn't, but maybe I've not got to the episode where they talk about the British development stuff that was in the Spectrum and those kind of, like Rockstar Games came from and all that kind of stuff. But maybe I've missed that bit. I've not finished watching it yet.
Cool.
Right. Okay. So so that was the exciting news on the builds. And if you want to do a clean install and don't want to wait for the 39 gig file to download, you can get the ISOs. They've published the ISOs of both the latest 20H2 and the beta and the dev channels.
Oh, cool. Okay.
202.01. Now, something else I've played with this week that, again, is not necessarily news, but it's new to me, is Dex, Samsung Dex. I think you've played with it.
Yeah, I have played with it. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you think of it, because I used it with one of these laptop shell things, and it kind of is okay, but it kind of highlighted that Android isn't really good at that sort of thing. It's not it kind of worked, but because I kind of hoped to have a system that I'd be able to have one device or just plug into a screen or use it on the road, but it just didn't work particularly well. Nowhere near as nice, or as the same potential that we had with Windows Continuum, Windows Phone.
No.
So I came away, ultimately it was okay, but I'd still have a laptop that did everything. What did you think?
Well, yeah, well, first of all, I got it working with the Xbox rather than, and I know the way is to use a little like dock, isn't it? And actually, I did test this with the Lumia dock, the USB-C Lumia dock, which is on my desk somewhere around here, and that worked quite well on a monitor. But I kind of thought, well, I'm not really going to ever use that really in action, or in any anger, a bit like the discussion we had earlier with the Android devices, because it doesn't have that kind of fluid feel. But I did try it with projecting the Xbox using the Kinect app, the Miracast app, and Windows 10, and it actually works on that. So if you want to get your Dex experience and you don't want to hook it all up to a TV or monitor, you can actually just open the Kinect app in Windows 10 or Xbox and you project it straight through. It has its limitations. The keyboard pass-through doesn't work, so you've got to use the Android on-screen keyboard. But you get a nice little trackpad that comes up on the phone. And actually, as a way of getting content onto your Xbox that's run on your Android, it's not a bad way of working. So I did it with some pictures, but you could do. Imagine you're showing your family something rather than all huddled around over your phone. Perhaps you want a social distance. You can project it to your TV via the Kinect app on your Xbox. I guess you could do it to an Android TV or a smart TV, but I just had the Xbox on, and that worked. There was a bit of lag and everything else, but it actually worked quite well. You can get this weird desktop experience that's not a desktop, and there's some Android apps. They all have they look like they're running on an Android screen, a phone screen. There's an option to sort of break the API and force these things to work better in the Dex mode, which doesn't really work that well. Some apps work really well. I tell you what worked well. Microsoft Edge worked. It's almost like using the desktop one. The UI cool. Anyway. That was quite good. But yeah, I don't really see a good use case for it. It's back to that discussion we had before. If you just use your laptop, wouldn't you? Apart from, like I said, projecting your screen up, maybe if you've got something on your phone that you wanted to show on the TV. But it doesn't do some protected content. You couldn't use it for Netflix or anything like that. Not that you'd probably want to, but because you could use Netflix on the Xbox. But you couldn't project video. I mean, there are some, maybe Sky Go or something like that. You don't want to relicense it to multiple devices because you're going to get, I think my account's got 2 licenses for Sky Go. So you could have it on your phone and project it to your TV when you want to watch a TV or something, but that doesn't work. So my experiences were, it works, but if you wanted to get Android on your PC and you're using it for that method, then your phone is just a way better system. There's no lag with your phone. You can control it through, the interaction goes both ways. So I can see where they were going with Dex, but I can't see many people swapping their laptop for or even a desktop for a keyboard and mouse.
I mean, I agree. It's just not a very pleasant experience.
So, and even a way of getting Android apps on your PC, you might as well use your phone if if you've got your phone supports it, and if you've got Dex, then I'm pretty sure your Samsung device does support it. So it seems that your phone just seems a better option all around, and certainly the fluidity of the UI and everything was much better. So however Microsoft are doing the screen mirroring, it works much better than the way Samsung were doing it through Dex and Miracast. I don't know whether they're both using Wi-Fi Direct. I think your phone uses Wi-Fi Direct, I think, doesn't it? I think you have to be on the same Wi-Fi, but I think it does. But anyway, your phone works brilliantly. Dex works okay, and I just can't really, apart from, like I said, sharing your phone screen to show people on a TV rather than all crying around your phone. That's probably the only real case I could see for using it over using your phone. Your phone's more about bringing the Android apps into Windows 10 while you're working, and I found that has been one of the best things I've found with using the Note that supports that, is because I'm checking the crucial business decisions, like what's the temperature in my greenhouse at the moment, using the Android app because of the sensor. I just split the screen, so I've got the Android app down the left-hand side and the rest of the window on the other side, and actually it works really well. Like I said last week, the Authenticator app's great for that, because I have two-factor on most of my services now. So if you're on Amazon or whatever, and I've got two-factor switched on there, when it prompts you, I can launch the Authenticator app from the start menu in Windows 10, and it pops. You still have to authenticate with you, by signing in or whatever, but yeah, it works really well. So Dex is a good idea, but I think your phone is a much better idea, especially for the way that I'm working.
Cool.
Now, what else do you want to mention this week? Oh, we're talking about smartwatches last week.
Yes, we were. Yes, I got a note in from a listener, Richard Perris, who suggested a look at the Fitbit Sense smartwatch. I don't know if you've had a look at that at all.
No, I haven't looked at that at all. I've seen Fitbit in the past, and I know people have them, love them.
Well, exactly. I mean, I actually used to have a Fitbit before I moved to the Apple Watch, and I have to say I really liked it. It was a really discreet, handy thing. It did on reflection, it did almost everything perfectly. So in some ways, the Apple Watch felt a bit of a retrograde step, and then it was quite a chunky, large thing. So Richard suggested I looked at the I looked at the new Sense, and it does look interesting, although it is perhaps a little bit large for my taste. But they have also gone down the path of all the ECG, all the health things which we've seen become so popular in the smartwatch marketplace. So yeah, an interesting option for me there. But if I'm honest, I'm actually starting to lean a little bit towards the Galaxy Watch 3, because one, it looks quite nice. I quite like the fact it looks like a watch, but also it's got some intriguing features which I need to learn more about. Which is I hadn't. Apparently, it looks like it's software based, but it can track blood pressure, which is
that's right.
Something I've not seen in a proper consumer device yet. Although I don't believe it's been approved in the EU yet. I think it's only just been approved in the US. So, but it appears to need an application and an app on the watch. You've got to also use some actual real readings from an actual real blood pressure monitor to kind of calibrate the thing. But I'd be intrigued to see how well that works. So I'm quite tempted I'm quite tempted by that as well. Although that said, one benefit of the Fitbit Sense is it does have epic battery life compared to most other smartwatches. I guess it lasts about 6 days or so, whereas obviously your Galaxy Watch 3 will last maybe a day or so. Apple Watch again, a day or so. So decisions. I can't afford them all, sadly.
Yeah, I like the Galaxy Watch. I've got the original Active. One of my sons has got the original watch, and the other Jack just bought the Active 2 in March, and he really likes it. I got the 40mm one, which I'll regret, and I wish I've got the 42mm one, because I found the screen a little bit small. But It's actually the really nice device. Yeah, I do charge it every day, but like for example today, I wear it for sleep tracking. So the only time I've put it on charge now when I came up to do this recording, and it's done already, and I won't need to charge it again until tomorrow for a similar amount of time. So it's not like it spends hours on the charging station, and it's wireless charging, and it will actually charge from the Note as well. You can back to back and share the charge. But the sleep tracking features are pretty good. The auto health tracking ones are good. You go for a walk and it starts automatically tracking that. The blood pressure one I've seen looks quite good. There was a hack available for you to get it on the original Galaxy Watch via getting an APK and things. It was like a development version of it, and I did try it on the other phone a while ago, and it was actually quite good. It required a lot of calibration though, but I think you do need, even with the new one, you do have to calibrate it with a proper ARM one. But the difference is how the ARM one works, and then the fact that they can do it now through a little sensor is amazing. That's even possible.
Yeah, it does sound as though the software is doing a lot of heavy lifting though.
Yeah, I think so. But there's some of the nice little bits and pieces with the watch as well. There's like the stress monitoring and on there is there's some apps that are quite useful. The Outlook app's quite good. You get all the usual stuff, weather and notifications, and the notifications are also pretty good. And so I actually like it. I went from the Android and sort of pulling my face at the Samsung one, and would actually end up really liking it. And I just, like I said, I just wish I'd gone for a slightly bigger one. But I've seen the Watch 3 looks like a watch now rather than a smart device, and you can put your own nice smart strap on it. So it actually has that nice elegant look to it. So I think that's probably what I would go for at the moment, but it's quite often it's just a case of picking one, and because your data gets not necessarily siloed, but it's in there. I'm using the Samsung Health app to track everything. So if you move to another system, then you kind of perhaps might lose some history. So you end up inevitably getting sort of sucked into one ecosystem. Although I have got a brilliant app that called Health Sync. I think I talked about this before. And what it will do, it will push data between systems. So you can actually maintain two systems. So for a while, I was using Android and Samsung watches. So this syncs up any data that's on the Samsung device. You can push it to Google Fit and vice versa. And my scale that I've got doesn't work with Samsung, but it works with Google Fit. So I've chosen to have everything in Samsung apart from the weight, which it gets from Google Fit, and you can get to choose that granularity as well. And I think it works with Fitbit and other systems as well. So if you do decide, whichever one you decide to go to, you have got a nice sort of tool to integrate them all together, which is, I think it was £2 or something like that for the app. Right.
Yeah,
well, it's quite good if you're moving systems.
Exactly, and also it's also one should pay for apps that are useful for as well.
Yeah, exactly.
£2 is not a lot, and that sounds like a really handy, handy.
And there was a free trial as well. It was 7-day version, which is because the developer kind of said, depends on, it might not necessarily work for you depending on what combinations you want. So try the free one. If it works, then buy it, which is exactly what I did. Cool. So it's working well for me. So I've actually got the data in both systems now. So even in the future, if I go one or the other, I've still got the data in there. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend the Galaxy, but that's with the caveat that I haven't used the Fitbit. I guess you're gonna have to do the world a favour, get both, and then write a review on it.
If I could afford to get both, I'd be in the market for Nvidia's new graphics card.
Yeah, we're getting closer to the flight sim launching with VR, aren't we? And I know that you'll be getting itching to try the Reverb G2. So how much is that new Nvidia card?
I think the flagship one is going to be about $1,500.
And is that the 3090 RTX?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so it's the one that's going to basically it's 24 gigs of memory on the thing. It's going to be able to do 60 frames per second at sort of 8K resolutions. It's an absurd beast. Sort of again, all the ray tracing thing is in there as well, but it just looks ridiculous as a machine. Over 10,000 CUDA cores. Although it's going to. Did I read that it needs a 750 watt power supply?
So you're gonna have Gary's wiring system into PC. You're gonna need a 3-phase in there, aren't you?
I read somewhere they basically followed the Doom and SpaceX naming convention and called it the BF GPU, which is the big ferocious GPU, I believe it's being called. It's going to need 3 slots.
Oh.
It's going to include a silencer because it's so loud. It's just, oh goodness me. But you know, I'm going to need that to play Flight Sim 2020 through my Reverb G2 headset. So perhaps I shan't be buying any watches in the short term anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Reverb's not going to cost you that much, but it's what you need to power that, because the Reverb's already a high-res display, isn't it? A super high-res display.
Yeah, it's super,
and then you combine that with Flight Sim.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Flight Sim, I mean, all I hear at the moment are people moaning about the fact that they still can't run it with all settings turned up high. Me, I can barely run it at all. So it works. It just about works. But I must admit,
was yours a 9 something, wasn't it?
I think mine's a 1050 Ti. It's whatever the minimum needed for the Oculus Rift was back in the day.
Yeah.
So I still do stuff on Oculus, but you know, that's barely enough to run Project Cars 2, which I know you're quite a fan of, and Project Cars 2 feels clunky with that. So I think I'm going to have to decide if I upgrade my system, because I kind of need to replace some of the spinning Rust disks now with SSDs, because my OS runs on SSD, but I was keeping my games on spinning disks, but clearly that's not performant enough now. It's an i7, which should be enough, although should I be thinking about an i9? That seems to be overkill. I don't know. Then, of course, it's a case of looking at this beast here. It needs 3 slots. I haven't got space in the case for 3 slots. So, yeah, and the power supply will blow my little machine just out of the water. So I just don't know. And it's so much money. It really isn't. You know, I moan about the Duo costing a lot of money. This is just insane amounts of money. But then again, I don't buy a graphics card more than once every few years, so perhaps I should buy one that's a bit future proof. But wow, I think I might go for the cheaper version. I think there's going to be the RTX 3080, isn't there, which would be a more reasonable sort of £600 mark.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's the power requirements probably that would put me off on that one.
Yeah,
trying to find a case. Yeah, and then once you start down that path as well, there's no end in sight, is there? Because you need a bigger case, a bigger power supply, and you might as well get you need a new motherboard, and you need a new processor. You probably need some more RAM and some extra storage. So you get to the end of that, and when you start pairing up the premium ones, you always want to go with the premium component, don't you? So you, like you said, do you look at an i9? Do you get your SSDs and everything? But I'd tell you what, a good. Shout out. My son built his gaming rig, which is a really nice rig, and he was having blue screens when the PC powered back up again after the reboot, it said insert hard drive or whatever. So it turned out his SSD was faulty, and we weren't sure whether it would be the SSD or the motherboard. But he bought all his stuff through Amazon, and I told him it was only a few months ago, so I just had to get onto Amazon and tell him to go replace it. And they did. They sent him a new SSD, and they said they'll send you a return code, and I don't think they've sent it to him yet. But anyway, we got a new SSD. We did a clean install of Windows, but all his gaming stuff was on the other, all the Steam games were on the other drive, and it's up and running, and no blue screen so far. But really, no quibble, no arguing. It was a guy, through a virtual chat thing, and next day it came. So. No issue. It's not a hugely expensive component, but even so, good service, and it's one of those occasions where every now and again I'm buying stuff and I think, do I really want to keep patronizing Amazon with all my purchases? But then when you get good service like that, you kind of think, well, it's it's a no-brainer sometimes.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's particularly with that kind of hardware. I mean, I'd often like to sort of try and use my more local or independent stores, but it can be just hard to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, personal experiences are that he just went on one chat and they no quibble next day thing, and then we he was up and running and fixed, and I think he's got to send the other one back, but there was
obviously.
Yeah, there was no arguing over it or whatever. Which I can imagine. I've dealt with returns in the past for different companies, and you spend ages trying to prove that it's they'll tell you to reinstall Windows or whatever. All the usual things that you have to go through before you get to to speak to someone that tries to help you.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, frankly, I'm not quite sure if it's still around. When I got my gaming rig here, I got it from I think I may have done a review of it on in TTDL years ago. It was the Quiet PC, and that began having some blue screens, and it was years out of warranty. But they took it back, and a guy actually looked at it and reinstalled it and fixed it and tweaked it, and it came back and it was fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I think just be careful who you buy from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's just about all we've got time for this week. Hopefully, Gary's safe in Berlin or wherever it's Berlin, isn't it? He's going, yeah.
It's Berlin, yeah. So
we'll find out next week.
See what toys he's been able to play with.
Yeah, whether they'll let you even touch any other in glass cases. Yeah, we'll find out next week. Hopefully, we'll have a new build of Windows 10, something interesting. We might even have a release of 20H2. I think that's on the cards for coming soon.
That's right, and we'll be mere days away from the Surface Duo launch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I'll be avoiding those. I'll be grudgingly reading the reviews.
Good man.
On my S20 without glasses. Right, okay, so Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
Excellent. Well, we're back same time, same place next week. You can email me ian@thislife.com, and I'll see you next week.
Fantastic.
Thanks to Richard. We'll be back same time, same place next week. You can email me ian@thislife.com. I'm @iSticks on Twitter. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.